Welcome to the Inspire Collective podcast, where our goal is to inspire Christian men and women in the marketplace with all they need to positively influence those around them for God's kingdom. My name is Chris Bowen, and today we're sitting down with Van Moody. Aside from being the lead pastor of the Worship Center in Birmingham, Van is also an entrepreneur, speaker, author, and visionary who seeks to transform the world by transforming lives. So now let's tune in and unpack his inspiration, his current endeavors, and much, much more. Van, it is a pleasure and a delight to have you with us today on the Inspire Collective podcast.
It's a joy to be with you, Dr. Bowen. I love Inspire and Inspire Collective. Love what you guys are doing. So I'm honored to just be a part of the conversation and hopefully add some value.
Awesome. So what we do here at the Inspire, obviously, is to bring this out into the marketplace. And we know that you have done that from the church into the marketplace. And we want to just kind of dwell from some of the great things that you've done in your business as well as your ministry. So let's start off by asking about several of the media outlets that you have been on: the Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, CNBC, and there's been so many more. Do you ever feel like that you have to tailor what you say to these different audiences?
Not really. And let me qualify that not really. I grew up really in three different worlds. I grew up in the faith community, obviously, as a believer. I come from parents that were strong believers. But also, in addition to being believers, they were hugely entrepreneurial and modeled out for me good leadership. And so I have lived since high school in those three worlds. And a part of my calling is really to blend those worlds together. And I don't think that that's a new calling. When you look at, in fact, the disciples that Jesus chose, all of the disciples were marketplace leaders. And I think it's extremely important that people understand that Jesus specifically chose marketplace leaders to not only walk with him for those 3.5 years, but to ultimately take the gospel around the world. And so my lens and understanding has always been shaped by those three worlds. And so when I communicate, that just bleeds through everything that I'm doing. So in many ways, I haven't really had to tailor the audience or what I share with the audience in a different way, because that's the essence of who I am.
Awesome. And it's really inspiring today to see pastors such as yourself and bishops like you that are also now entrepreneurial, because a lot of times they either seems like they have the anointing or the business sense. And as we all know, it takes those two blending together. So we know that you have a great company and through the Worship Center. You have worked through running this cafe, and I'm very interested in this. In fact, I've watched a little bit of it. And I think it's fantastic. Kale Me Crazy. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind Kale Me Crazy?
Yeah, certainly. Well, Kale Me Crazy is a superfood cafe that was actually started in Atlanta. So let me go back and tell you a little bit about my journey. I'm vegan. I've been vegan since 2019. And then prior to 2019, my wife and I were also vegetarian for 10 years prior to that. So we've been on this journey of just healthy eating. And then my wife and I are also fitness enthusiasts. And we committed, even before we were married, to trying our best to live a healthy life and to honor God, even through how we take care of our temples and even how we eat. And whenever I would travel to Atlanta, which is home for me, or Los Angeles or Miami or other cities where there was a Kale Me Crazy, we would often eat there because it's the greatest tasting healthy food that I've ever had in my life. And not only was I impacted personally, but I began to really think deeply about what was necessary, particularly in underserved communities. Here in Alabama, where I live, one of the patterns that's consistent with underserved communities is a gross inadequacy of healthy food options in those communities. And it's a domino effect, because a lack of access to healthy foods contributes to the obesity epidemic. Alabama is one of the most obese states in America. But then it also contributes to the lower life expectancy. And so the data is clear that in many underserved communities, those communities and the residents of those communities have a lower life expectancy. The crime is also the highest. The schools are the worst. And the data goes on and on and on. And so I believe in being a social entrepreneur. That's what I consider myself. And my definition of social entrepreneurship is that you can create great businesses also through helping people. And so for us, we saw the need and then began to look at what business opportunity can we bring to Alabama that would address the need. And so I began to have conversation with the CEO and the founder of Kale Me Crazy in Atlanta. And he was so moved by our vision that he created an opportunity for us to become franchise owners and really control and own this entire territory. And so that's how Kale Me Crazy came about. And so it's been an incredible, incredible journey because we are able not only to provide to everyone, but in particular, we're able to provide to communities that often are overlooked and don't have access to healthy foods, the best tasting healthy foods that they've ever had. And so salads, acai bowls, wraps, cold pressed juices, smoothies, it's absolutely incredible. So we are making a difference. And we are also operating an incredible business that is continuing to grow exponentially. And we are always looking to expand in the Alabama market. So we see it also, Dr. Bowen, in line even with the message of faith. I think that leaders are not only voracious readers and learners, but leaders also have got to lead by example. And so taking care of themselves is one of the greatest ministries that a leader can commit to, because if you're not good, then you're no good to your family, you're no good to your children, and you can't fully give yourself to the things that you are leading. But then also we know that the Bible is very clear on how we should eat and how we should take care of our temples. And so all of those three concentric circles and areas that I've really given my life to kind of come together in the Kale Me Crazy endeavor that we're doing.
That's amazing. And that's something I don't think that a lot of people really hear about. And it's exciting and refreshing of hearing your ministry is even touching that part and giving people a better quality of life through what we put inside of our body. Now, of course, January, most churches are doing the 21-day Daniel fast, but you are a lifetime. This is something you guys committed to. And I heard you say that since 2019, you and your wife have been vegan. And so in your road, I know that you traveled the world. You guys are always on the road, always on the move. And a lot of people say it's just impossible to be vegan on the road. What would you say to the viewers that are listening today, you, the owner of Kale Me Crazy, and really make an impact in your community there in Birmingham? What would you say to somebody that says it's impossible to do while you're traveling?
Well, number one, I would tell them that it's not impossible, but it does require planning. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I found is if you're going to eat clean and make it a lifestyle choice, then proper planning is important. How you plan your meals, and even that same planning applies to your travel. So, when I know that I'm going to travel to a destination and I'm going to get on flight, there are certain things that I'll carry with me. But then also it's really about learning how to eat. And so often, a lot of the aircraft, the companies that I take, Delta is one of the ones that I fly the most. They actually provide an option for you if they're going to be serving a meal on a plane to ahead of time let them know that you're a vegetarian or vegan. And if you do it within a certain window, they will have specially prepared meals that fit your lifestyle choice. So it's not nearly as hard as people think. And then the other thing is there's a great awakening that I think is happening in our country. And so more and more individuals understand the importance of providing opportunities and choices for people that are vegetarian and vegan. And so I find that it's getting actually easier. And so I would encourage anyone that wants to make that choice to research, the airlines that they travel, the hotels that they are going to stay in, and they would be surprised to find that there are lots of options. One of the fun things that I also do when I'm going into a new city is I actually research what are the vegan options in restaurants around where I am. And it's become kind of a fun thing that my wife and I do. So, I think that there are plenty of options. You just have to prepare for it and plan for it and look for them.
Wow. So preparation, I think, is the key, is what you're telling our audience today. And another thing that I hear so many people say is it's so expensive. And my takeaway from that is, but also going to the doctor is very expensive and buying medication is very expensive. So for somebody that's out there listening saying, I try to eat healthy, but the food is more expensive. What would you be able to encourage the audience today here at Inspire to tell them about the price they're paying for healthy food?
Well, number one, from a leadership standpoint, it always costs more to repair than to prepare. And so you need to understand that. You're either going to pay up front or you're going to pay after the fact. And if you pay after the fact and you repair, you're going to pay more. And so, yes, healthy food options are more expensive, but I think that it's an investment. It's like anything that's important and should be important to you. You have to be willing to make the investment or there will be no returns. And so if you take the easy way out on the front side, you're going to pay on the backside. And what you're going to pay on the backside is going to cost you more. And so I just think that we need to understand that. I do think, though, that the trend of what's happening in society, we will see over time those costs coming down, because I think that people are beginning to understand at a global level not only the need to provide more healthy food options, but also the benefit to our society. And so, yes, it is a little bit more expensive, but I think you're worth it. I think your family's worth it. I think your health is worth it. I often tell leaders, you only get one of you. And if you don't take care of that one you, then everything is going to be cut short. So it's a necessary payment, because I would much rather pay on the front side instead of paying on the back side.
Wow. Well, Inspire Collective, we're here today interviewing Dr. Van Moody. And as you can tell, there's already some great nuggets. He is the pastor of the Worship Center in Birmingham, and also with the cafe Kale Me Crazy. And already a great nugget that Dr. Moody just said, and I wrote this down several times. It costs more to repair than to
Prepare.
Costs more to repair than to prepare. There you go. So we got to make sure we get it right on the front end. So that's awesome. So we know that you've also written several books. There's a lot of things that you're doing. You're a very busy man. Numerous books that you have written. The People Factor. I think we all need to know that one. Aligned by Success, Designed by God. And can you tell us a little bit more about your new book, The Secret Place?
Sure. So The Secret Place and the book that just came out actually a couple of weeks ago is called Get Closer. And The Secret Place and Get Closer are both books that really help individuals in their journey and their desire to know more of God, to develop healthy disciplines, to have a healthy and vibrant relationship with the Lord. What I found is that COVID did several things. We know that COVID isolated us. But we also know statistically that COVID challenged a lot of people globally to raise some critical questions. One of the most pervasive questions, and the data reveals this, is that people really began to wrestle with what is real happiness, because a lot of individuals had defined happiness by way of happenings, their routine and the normalcy of life. And COVID removed all of that. And so as people began to raise these questions, and also those questions were connected to trying to really find God, particularly because even for the faith community, their habits that I think many people associated with God were removed during COVID. And so both sets of books, The Secret Place and also Get Closer, really was designed to help people, number one, have healthy habits, healthy an understanding about how to attain happiness. What is happiness about? What is it made of? And then also healthy habits that would help people connect with God in a vibrant way. I am a big proponent of daily disciplines, particularly not only leadership disciplines, but spiritual disciplines, and the benefit of daily time with the Lord. And what's interesting, Chris, is as I've traveled around the world, one of the top questions that I've been asked in leadership circles, in business circles, and even in the faith community is, tell me about your daily time with the Lord, because I'm very clear with people that everything that I am, everything that I've been able to do, everything that I share, whether I share it through business or share it through the leadership circles, all of it comes from the Lord. And so ultimately people often ask me that. People say, well, man, it feels like you have an inside track. Tell me about your daily habits with the Lord. And often I've been asked to teach people about how to have daily time with God that's fulfilling, that's satisfying, that impacts them in a variety of ways. And so in both sets of those books, The Secret Place and Get Closer, I literally wrote it out and helped people to have it so that they could, begin to live those principles on a day-to-day basis. So those recent sets of books are about that. And then probably the set of books that I'm most known for is the trilogy of books that's called Desire by God, the I Factor, and the People Factor. Now, they actually came out in reverse order. The People Factor came out first, the I Factor came out second, and Desire by God came out last, but they are actually meant to be read in the opposite order. Desire by God, the I Factor, and then the People Factor. And that came out of a lot of leadership and business work. The Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, and a number of big brands in the news sector carried lots of my content, because what I saw in the business and in the leadership space was an epidemic of leaders crashing and burning. And I was really compelled to speak to that. And that's where those three books kind of originated from. And biblically, for the faith community, they come out of the question when Jesus is asked by the teacher of the law all of the law of Moses, what's the greatest commandment? And Jesus responds and says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And he says that he can sum up all of the law and the prophets with that. And I always thought, man, what a unique summation of the Old Testament, because Jesus, in essence, says that he can sum up the entire Old Testament with love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I also thought that those were critical for the day and time that we live in. So love the Lord your God with all of your heart, mind, and soul is what Desire by God is about, because I think that we're living in a day and time now where people have a politicized, misunderstood idea of who God is. And so I wanted to be able to represent the truth of who God is, away from political motivations, away from a lot of the things that in many ways in our culture veil the true nature of God. So love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul is Desired by God. Love your neighbor is the People Factor, because there is also an issue that is rampant in the workplace. And there are so many stats out there. There's an association that recently did a poll, and it revealed that 60 to 80% of all issues in the workplace don't stem from gift or talent, but stem from an inadequate ability to handle relationship issues well in the workplace. So how do we love our neighbor? How do we work well with our neighbor? How do we get along with, crazy people in the workplace that are more concerned with, playing politics than really getting the job done? So that's the People Factor. But he says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And that's the big one, because then we're talking about those inside internal dynamics that really dictate the essence of a leader's life. And so that's the I Factor, because I traveled the world working with leaders, working with business, organizations at every level, small, large. And what I saw was this epidemic of leaders that were trying to lead their organizations to greater places, but they couldn't lead themselves well. And everything starts with us. So that's the I Factor. So in a nutshell, those are probably the most recent books, and also the ones that I'm most known for.
You're called by Jesus to be a change maker, but sometimes we miss the connection between our God-given purpose and our business world leadership. That's why we created the Inspire magazine, the #1 resource for the church in the marketplace. Right now, you can enjoy a 1-year subscription to Inspire magazine absolutely free. You can get access to conversation with leaders from numerous industries, men and women who know what it's like to lead practically while staying spiritually healthy. To read our most recent issue and to learn more about a free annual subscription, visit us at inspirecollective.com/magazine to take the next step in your leadership journey today. Well, I know our listeners here at Inspire are saying, how do I get a copy of these books? And so we know that you're going to be featured in the magazine. So we'll have a bunch of plugs there so people can reach out. And also, I've got a website, Van Moody, VanMoody, vanmoody.org. And they can connect with you, I'm assuming, there to purchase books.
Absolutely. They can connect with us there. They can get all of these books anywhere that books are sold as well.
Awesome. Well, we know that you are a very busy man. You have, you're a pastor, you're a bishop, you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, visionary. You sit on some major boards. You're an author. So, in all of that, Dr. Moody, how do you stay humble with all the great success that God has given you and the platforms that God has put you on? How would you remain humble through all of the great success that God has allowed you to experience?
Well, number one, I understand that all that I am and all that I will ever be is from God. And so, I live for an audience of one, which is why my personal daily time with the Lord is so important, which is why I've written extensively about it, because what I've seen leaders who ultimately become starving bakers. And that's a
Mm,
big leadership principle that I teach on. And a starving baker is an individual that's so busy cooking for others or doing for others that they don't eat their own food.
wow.
And I've seen leaders crash and burn because of it. And so it also impacts humility. I don't read the Bible or any other kind of books that feed me and nourish me because I have to teach or because I have to present. I read them
Mm,
first and foremost so that I can live a life that's holy and pleasing and acceptable, not only to the Lord, but to my children and to my family and to the people that matter most. And so ministry at any level, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a top level leader, a business executive, or even if you are just a believer or a pastor, regardless of the sphere that you live in, ministry first has to go in before it goes out.
mm.
And if we are faithful to that, then humility becomes easy because you will always be aware every single day that everything that you have and everything that you are is but by the grace of God. And so we don't have to do anything, we get to do it. And that is what keeps me grounded. That's what guides me.
Yeah.
And that's what feeds me as a leader at every level of my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And I pastored for 27 years. And if I could have gotten this kind of advice in pastoring, was independent, and I was so busy and growing the church and the ministry that I didn't have this kind of good advice. So those pastors that's listening, we're talking to a pastor today that has a very large church. And so what goes in before, we got to make sure what we put in before is what can come out. And so you said a mouthful when you said that, because I think a lot of times we miss that. We feel like every book that we're reading, every time we open the Bible, is to feed somebody else, but taking care of what is in us first. That's some great advice, Dr. Moody. So let's go and talk a little bit about your church. We know that the worship center is now not only on one campus, but now has launched out to 3 campuses and is growing in all 3 locations. So what are some of the challenges that you and your team had to overcome in order to go from 1 campus to 3 campuses and all 3 of them exploding?
Well, I tell you, one of the biggest challenges has always been trying to find solutions for problems that you've never faced.
Hmm.
It's really easy when your ministry is but um, a shadow of a ministry that you're familiar with or that you've worked in, because then you can just, in many cases, do what they've done. But when God is leading you beyond a place that you have a point of reference for, then it becomes very challenging because you end up, really encountering problems that you've never seen before. So one of my mentors um, used to own the Forum where the Los Angeles Lakers used to play back in the day with Magic Johnson and all of them. And they sold that building, and now it's the place where the LA Rams play their football games. But I remember he told me a story when he bought the Forum, because he said, he was reaching out to some of his friends saying, hey, how do you handle this? And they said, hey, we've never had Forum-sized problems, so we don't even know how to help you. And I think that would be the greatest way for me to describe what some of our challenges have been, because, we've had Forum-sized challenges or challenges beyond a place that many of my contemporaries have experienced. And so it's been hard at times to figure it out. And let me tell you why it's hard. It's not because God won't provide the answers, because he will.
Mm-hmm.
But you end up standing between the tension of people expecting you to have the answers and you not having the answer right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the tension is, because leaders are tempted to want to try to solve problems immediately. And it takes courage to, number one, say, I don't know, but I am going to pray and seek God and connect with others and do the research so that I can figure out the best way forward. And the tension there is that often that's not a quick solution. It's not a quick fix. And a lot of times leaders want a quick fix. The people that we're serving want a quick fix. It's almost like you can have a legitimate need in your organization, but if you don't have the right answer for how to address it, then the worst thing you can do in that moment is to try to put a Band-Aid on it, because once again, you're going to end up paying more in repairing than the wise decision to prepare the right way. So yeah, those have been the challenges. And then also, if I can add a second one, making sure that the people that we bring on staff and bring into our community fit the culture that we're trying to create. You know, a lot of times as leaders, we are quick to hire individuals because we have a need, and then spend a lot of time cleaning up because that individual maybe look good on paper, or maybe they had the right talent, but they didn't fit the culture that you're trying to create. And culture is important. Culture eats vision for lunch. I know lots of leaders that talk all the time about vision, vision, vision. But if you don't have the right culture, your culture will destroy your vision. But the thing about culture is you can't create it. You have to be it. And so that's a part of the reason why you've got to make sure that you hire people that embody the culture that you are trying to create or trying to maintain, because they will either contribute to the culture in a healthy way, or they will distract from the culture you're trying to have. And culture is about everything for the success of your organization.
Wow. And you displayed in so many ways today through our interview a full circle of how we should be able to look. And I think when I asked that question about the how you grow a healthy campus, and you've done that in multiple different venues and levels. And I heard you say, having a healthy body, having a healthy mind, having a healthy spirit. And I think those are three essential pieces that that you have spoke about today that have really helped us understand that when we're healthy, we can also have healthy things come from us. So we know that you're also part of an organization which is making a huge impact globally, and that's MIBF. Can you tell us a little bit about MIBF?
Yeah, MIBF is the Macedonia International Bible Fellowship of Churches. It was started, my goodness, maybe 35, 40 years ago by Bishop Kenneth Omer, Dr. Kenneth Omer. And it is an association of churches around the United States, but also in South Africa and the UK, and there are a few churches actually in Israel. And so we are a great fellowship of pastors and leaders from all of those local organizations. And we come together as brothers and sisters in the faith for iron sharpening iron opportunities. But then also we, work together on a collective of initiatives to advance the kingdom of God. So it's been an honor to be a part of that. We've got great resonance in South Africa. In fact, MIBF was started in South Africa. It was birthed there. And so South Africa and what God is doing there is a very, very special place in the MIBF heart. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what it is. There are some incredible leaders and incredible churches that are a part of MIBF. And it's not about meeting for the sake of meeting. It's really a family of believers and leaders together. Really trying to remain healthy, stay healthy, and continue to impact the kingdom of God in a healthy way.
Awesome. And because you're one of those inspiring leaders, and you've already said this, but I want to make sure here at the Inspire Collective that we reiterate and hear that again from you. How do you actually balance time with your family? We know that family is so important, and you're going so many directions. I know you have young kids still at home. How do you actually balance that to make sure they have good quality time from dad?
Yeah, one of the things that I really stress to leaders is this notion of time management is an oxymoron. You can't manage time. Time marches on. But you can prioritize time. And so one of the things that I say to leaders is, your family, your time with the Lord, number one, and your family, number two, those should be the top two priorities in your life. And so I don't manage my family time. I prioritize it. And that's how I'm able to stay present and visible in their life, but also how I'm able to make sure that they don't take a back seat to the church or to what conference I'm going to speak at, or even the businesses that I oversee and own, I prioritize them. I do it, every day. I do it every week. I do it every month. One of the practices that my wife and I have done for many years is every year we sit down and lay out our personal family calendar. And we do that first before any other dates are added. We do our personal time. When are we going to Sabbath as a family? All of the vacations that we're going to take. And we look at it quarterly. And then what I found is doing that helps me to manage the rest of the busyness, because I know that those prioritized times with my families are the times that I'm refreshed, I'm refueled, and I'm just, maintaining the health that I need for the other busier things that I've got to do. But I don't wait until my calendar gets full with everything else and say, okay, how can I squeeze in time with my kids? That's first. And then my assistants know that nothing, can remove that. If the president calls or whoever calls, like that time with my family and the things that we've planned is sacred, and nobody can overrule that. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so important, especially for young pastors to hear how important it is to have that set in place. So we know that you inspire pastors, you inspire new business owners and entrepreneurs. You've written books, you have podcasts, and you inspire people literally globally and around the world. So the great question, and one of the final questions I'm going to have for you today is simply this: what inspires Dr. Moody? What is that thing that really inspires you to keep you from getting complacent? What is that thing?
Every day I want to get better. I just was wired to never settle. Though just my DNA, everything about me is about, okay, how do I make this day the best? And then how do I get up tomorrow and do it again and to try to reach higher? And then how do I get up the next day and do it again and try to reach higher and try to reach further? That's just the way I'm wired, and that's a gift that I think that God has given me, and I think that every leader needs, because I think that it's easy to look at everything and say, oh, wow, okay, now I can hang out and chill. You know what I think is the best way for me to explain this? When the Apostle Paul says, not that I have already apprehended, but I press towards the mark. What he literally is saying when you study that phrase in the Greek is he's in essence saying, I am trying to apprehend that which apprehended me. And I think that should be the motivation for every leader, because I think if God has really grabbed your heart, if God has put a vision in your heart, if God has inspired you for something, then I think you spend the rest of your life trying to apprehend that which apprehended you. And so that's what pushes me. That's what drives me. And I pray, that God blesses me with long life. But I can tell you that no matter how long my life is, that will be my motivation until I have no more breath in my body, because I think every day we can always do better. Every day we can always believe God for the next step. And I think that's the task of real leadership.
Wow. Well, to the Inspire Collective listeners today, we've been talking to Dr. Van Moody. He's a community leader, a private equity investor, visionary, entrepreneur, an author, pastor of multi-site campus, the Worship Center in Birmingham, Alabama. And I know that he has left you encouraged and inspired today, and that has been our goal. So, Dr. Moody, I know that people would like to be able to connect with you, and I know I gave you that site earlier, vanmoody.org, to reach out to you about your ministry, things that happening, this great cafe that you have. Is there anything else that our viewers need to know about you, of how they can contact or connect with you?
No, I think vanmoody.org is one of the easiest ways. You can look up kalemecrazy.net and look up our store in Homewood. It's homewood.kalemecrazy.net. And then our church site is twccc.org. But you can get to all of them from vanmoody.org or twccc.org. So I hope that this podcast added value to the Inspire Collective. You guys are doing some incredible work, and I hope that it added value to your listeners as well.
Absolutely, for sure. I know that it did. Do you have any closing words of encouragement that you would like to say to our listeners today? I know they've already been inspired. I know you've given us so much meat. I've made a ton of notes here myself as you were talking. You always inspire. You're always giving out. There's some closing comments or closing words of encouragement that you could leave our viewers with.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest tragedies of life is that we're all born originals, but too many of us die carbon copies. And so I want to encourage every listener to be authentically yourself, to know that the grace that God has provided on your life is enough. You don't have to be like anybody else. You just got to rest in who God called you to be and allow that to fuel you forward, because that's God's will for your life.
Wow, awesome, incredible, and inspirational words today. We hope this conversation with Bishop Dr. Van Moody has left you feeling both motivated and inspired. Remember, you can connect with Van by going to his website, vanmoody, VANMOODY.org, or you can also contact us here at Inspire Collective. So for more content, you can sign up for the Inspire Collective magazine and get your first year subscription absolutely free on us. For more on this offer, visit us at inspirecollective.com.